Well, this is an odd one. Welcome to episode 3 on Central American Wars and episode 2 on Weird Wars. This episode, we got the Football War, the Pastry War, and the Chicken War. First, we'll start with the Football War. The Football War was a 4-day war between El Salvador and Honduras. Not 4 years this time, that's a whole other year. Because El Salvador had more people than Honduras, even though Honduras is like 4 times the size of El Salvadoran people started migrating to Honduras because El Salvador is a bit overcrowded. In the 60s, the president of Honduras started deporting El Salvadorians who went there. Hey, that sounds similar to a president we have right now. In 1969, El Salvador and Honduras were trying to get qualified for the 1970 World Cup. They had 3 matches, one in El Salvador's capital, one in Honduras' capital, and one in Mexico City. The Honduras capital match took place and it was ugly. The Honduran fans were harassing the Salvadoran players. Honduras won that match 1-0. Then during the El Salvador capital match, the Salvadoran fans got revenge but had to one-up Honduras, if you catch my grip. The Salvadorians won that match though. Right before the Mexico City match, El Salvador said, "Screw you" to Honduras. Then they won the match the next day. Border skirmishes were happening throughout early July. On the 14th, the war began. El Salvador invaded Honduras, and since Honduras has less people, they couldn't really do anything besides hinder the invasion. The only major battle of the war was on the 16th of July, but even that was small. On the 18th, the war ended, but both sides were still pissed, especially El Salvador. Later, El Salvador was forced to abandon their invasion occupied land thingy. El Salvador went on to get demolished in the World Cup the next year, and trade was very, how do I say this, restricted between the two countries. So that's that. Damn, that was a voice crack. The Pastry War was a war between Mexico and France. No, not that one. This was a smaller war than the second one, but still a war. It was between 1838 and 1839. So, for some background, a French pastry chef's shop, hence the pastry part of the war, was looted by some Mexican soldiers in 1832. So, he sent a complaint to the king at the time. They demanded a ton of moolah, but Mexico refused. Then in 1838, the French sent a fleet to blockade Mexico from the east and to bombard a fortress. Once the French got Veracruz, the war became fully like a war. Then, in 1839, a peace treaty was signed. Here are totally what it says on there. Number 1, give us money. Number 2, if you give us money, we'll stop fighting. And then Mexico paid a crap ton of money to get the French out of there, but they didn't pay it in full. So, France did another invasion in 1861, which I have a video on. Go check it out. Shameless plug. Next, we got the Chicken War. So in the 1500s, the nobility were still rich, like always, and stuff. In 1527, the king, or parliament, I'm not sure which, they made a conscription army. The king also did some questionable stuff, but it really starts in 1537. The nobility advocated for an invasion of Moldavia. The lesser nobility forced the king to not do that, and gathered 150k people for a militia. 'Cause why not, I guess, I don't know. The nobility went to the king and gave him 36 demands. Here's 8 of them. Then protesters started hating on the Queen Bona, whom they accused Queen Bona of being power hungry. Because the protesters were weak as hell, they couldn't start a civil war against the king, and the best they did was debating with the king. On tonight's episode of Who Sucks More, our 2 guests are King Sigismund I and an angry protester. What do you comply for yourself? You suck. Alright, I'll change some policies, but not all, okay? Fine, but we'll go home now. So yeah, they barely achieved anything. Also, this war has nothing to do with chickens. Like, this is a scam! Subscribe, like, comment, and correct me if I have any mistakes. Have a great day.